So on the optics of it, don't know if you guys know, but OpenAI was basically Elon was one of the first funders of OpenAI, right? So in Elon's biography, it's written and it's well-known knowledge that Elon has taken a very strong interest on AI conceptually for a long time now, right? So he actually went to Larry Page from Google and had like in-depth conversations as only an Elon Musk can have, right? About the existential powers of AI, because he generally believed that it was the next evolution of society and all that, right? And Larry Page didn't. So there are two camps of AI, right? One is this is amazing. It's going to take humanity up to that next step. It's going to assist us. The other is this is insane. This is going to be the end of us. The war of the robots and all that sort of stuff, right? So Elon Musk is, I'm not necessarily saying on the end of the world sort of vibes, but he has that very strong view that if not managed properly, this can be the end of civilization as we know it. And he's shared this view quite strongly with a lot of people that he's met. You'll remember back in the day when OpenAI was there, Elon Musk was amongst the individuals that was signing that petition to have AI regulated. So this is not a new stance by Elon, right? Just to set the context here, right? So he is in essence suing Sam Altman from OpenAI basically is because he believed that when again, he's one of the founders in terms of the funding founders of OpenAI, with Sam Altman, that OpenAI was initially created as a non-for-profit, right?
Oh, yep.
And now it is definitely not a non-profit, or like there are nuances within it, right?
The splitting of the two things.
Yeah. So basically that is the pillar of which he's trying to sue Sam Altman there. If you can think about that as a concept, that's not really very legalistic concept, right? So, but
the thing that you said you were going to do, it's not it.
But
isn't it like somebody, I think I was overhearing one of the things you were listening to, and it's like, it's open AI,
it's non-open
but
AI.
Really it's closed AI.
Closed AI. So I'll talk
Bait
about
and switch.
I'll talk about that specifically, right? So the court documents for the sue, and people have done really good breakdowns of it. By the way, I've tried to find it. It's not the easiest thing to find. How were they able to access it? Anyway, basically the way it's kind of written, it's almost written as a thesis paper. It's really random. And this is like a court document to sue. And it starts off basically saying Elon Musk justifying and framing the conversation that AI, and specifically AGI, right? So the difference between AI and AGI is when Deep Blue beat basically the chess master, right? So it allows you to summarize things. You're able to get information quickly. AGI basically is superhuman intelligence, and there's a stream of consciousness that we're talking about, the ability for these machine learning or this AI to evolve to the next sort of concept there, right? So it's really fascinating read because this is a legal document suing, but he's framing it almost like a thesis. And this is important because
if we've learned anything, right? Context.
Is context. But I think, look, when you just Google or YouTube, right, Elon Musk sues AI, you're going to see a lot of the major news outlets frame it in a very different way and they probably haven't necessarily read the 40 odd pages of the court document, right?
Do you think it's because it's a matter of, how do I say this? Like simplifying it for people. Obviously, there's also a media agenda that needs to be pushed forward.
I think depending on where you absorb your news, it's one thing. But it's interesting looking at like the comments of that, and like the vast majority of people are saying that typical CNBC bullshit where you have four idiots that just don't know what they're talking about. I just think it's a lot more nuanced, right? And again, if you think about it, if you're a journalist, now we're deviating, but if you're a journalist on political correspondence, blah, 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 etc., you've probably had 10 years experience on it. You're probably, gone through that. I guess what I'm saying is there's no degree for AI journalism, right? Like this is brand new if you think about
Ever
it,
evolving.
and really requires you
At its
going
speed as
down the
well.
rabbit hole. But anyway, specifically, I think interestingly, and I'll talk about like the specific elements of this sue. What we are now seeing, and you guys are gonna hate this because I know you're not the biggest fans of Elon, is the power brokers in AI and the public figures. And the power brokers from a company perspective are Google, OpenAI, Microsoft, correct? And then you've got Elon Musk here, which obviously he has Grok as well, right?
Yeah.
But Elon Musk is an individual, right? You notice when I say, OpenAI is, for all intents and purposes, Sam Altman,
But
right?
it's still a company.
Still a company. And the reason I say that is because now you can kind of see there's no doubt that whoever like figures out the next commercial element of AI is going to be increasingly rich, right? Google's trying to do that with, I obviously have a video and I'll link it below about Google with their woke Gemini thing, which created like racist images and couldn't have a single white person there. But I guess what I'm saying is like AI. So Elon is saying that basically if you stray down the levels of commercialism there, it's against specifically what OpenAI was created for. But this is where things get dangerous. This is the Kanye West song, no one person is meant to have all that power. Because if we've seen movies about it, Mission Impossible, if you have this black box of AGI, theoretically,
Thanos.
you can win the world. Like you laugh about it, but it's funny, right? Because we've seen these concepts in movies and we're all fascinated by that. But in real life, like these conversations are happening. And in essence, this legal case, if you think about it, because really he doesn't have a very, in my mind, a strong black and white legal basis. So then you think, why is Elon bringing this? And this is not what the major news outlets are pushing. The major news outlets are saying that, why is he doing this? It makes no sense. There's a conflict of interest because he's got Grok. Well, of course, why wouldn't he sue Sam Altman? But again, if you read the actual documentation, and I'm not saying that this is 100%. There could be other motivations here, but he is framing this as he's the adjudicator or in camp. Dude, we need to just take a chill pill here. This is
He's the equivalent of that Simpsons episode where like, stop, think of the children. Yes. That's basically him, right?
Well, which is interesting because if you think of Elon, okay, think about this, right? He's saying that it was created as a non-profit, and it should remain non-for-profit, which is a non-profit, basically there. And what is Elon known for? One of the richest men in the world. So there's a paradox there, right? So again, I'm not pro Elon in this case. I'm just saying that how he's presenting it, especially in this legal case, is that he wants to specifically have a forum to speak about AI. And this is what a lot of people on the internet who've read it are hypothesizing, that this guy's got money to burn. And this legal case is less about, I mean, like the end outcome is not that he wants ownership of OpenAI, which is
he'll get money
of it. It is that it is now brought out in the public sphere where Joe Blow, like you and I, can now talk about it. And most of the media are talking about different other elements of it, whereas you have maybe conspiracy theorists or people that actually have time to read about it are digging in. So I'll summarize it pretty quickly because I think you can go quite deep on this. But this is all to show that if you see this headline out there, this is not, like, I think it's very simplistic to think that Elon is suing OpenAI because he's got Grok AI and he wants to compete against it. I think it's a much more multi-layered than that, and probably reading the court documents will do it. But there's two elements that he's specifically asking the judge to adjudicate on. One is he wants to make this technology open source. You know what open source is, right? So what is the motivation for that? Well, there are a couple of motivations, right? The other thing is, just to put it up here, is the elephant in the room is Microsoft. Microsoft has a massive controlling stake in OpenAI. And as soon as they had this controlling stake in OpenAI, and this happened before, by the way, the public, this happened quite before Elon left. Elon was of the view that this turned this non-for-profit into a pure profit play.
Sorry, Elon leaving the board or something
I'm talking more about the timing. That's not the reason he left it. But the other thing is, just this week, Microsoft has bought a controlling stake in a very, I can't remember the name, a French AI company. I think it's called Minstrel or something like that. And what this is saying is, if Microsoft is buying massive controlling stakes in the best startup AI firms, they're controlling this. And that is, in essence, what he's trying to bring to play. It's not an anti-Microsoft, but if we think about this, innovation costs money, right? Yep. AI costs a lot of money in computing power, hardware, and then the intellectual throughput. And if we have the major guardians like a Google and Microsoft simply buying it because they need the funding, what you can't buy, well, you can buy it, is the intellectual knowledge of individuals coming in as a group, but they still need money initially. And if, quote and unquote, OpenAI is being bought off in that, then they're saying that how can they think clearly in humanity's best interests if they have a controlling stake by a company that is, Microsoft is not Google. They're not number one in search, right? So they're incentivized commercially regardless. And this is what the hypothesis is, to try and drive it on the most commercial beneficial outcome possible. So doing it open source means, and Elon was always of the view that things of this nature should be open source. And I say this with a smirk in my face because I Googled, and Grok at the moment is not open source. Apparently it might be, because you've got to think, okay, so wow, what you're saying, Kev, is like Elon is like the Captain America of AI. He wants to do a thing, but you've got to think in the back of your mind, there is a savvy businessman there. Yeah. So right now, the jury is out in actually what he's motivated. It could be both, really, if you think about it. There is an ability for this one action to benefit him both ways, right? But let's just run with justice Elon, right?
The altruistic view.
The altruistic view of Elon. As soon as you make code like that open source, everyone can view it.
Yeah.
So two things. One is, how can you sell something exclusively to Microsoft if anyone can view it? Because anyone can use it, right? There's smart people all over the world. So this already will have a severe compromise in whatever commercial relationship Microsoft has, because I'll have access to it. Joe Blow down the street will have access to it. Any code in the world, that's what open source is about, right? So it kind of thwarts that. And the other element that Elon is really pushing for is and it's connected to this second element, and there are other elements here, but these are the two that I'll bring and we'll just close it off, is that he's asking for a ruling and classification that ChatGPT-4, the current version of ChatGPT, whether it constitutes AGI or AI. So hold with me here. So AGI is artificial general intelligence, superhuman thinking. So why is this distinction a big deal? It's a big deal, and I wrote it here, is because if the court acknowledges that GPT is AGI versus AI, it could nullify the licensing agreement that between OpenAI and Microsoft, as it would be considered outside the scope of agreement. So just to dull it down a little bit more, when they initially had the agreement, Microsoft and AI, and Elon was kind of in the picture in a little bit in and out, their agreement was for AI and not AGI. So then you say, okay, hold up. There's an A, there's an I. What's the G? The difference is superhuman thinking. The difference is a robot that not only summarizes your calendar and tells you what to do, it does it for you.
Yeah.
It reads your thing and picks, without you asking for it, it starts doing it on its own, right? So again, let's run. This is where it really starts breaking off. So one is, you can see how this is going to completely thwart Microsoft, right? Like if the judge says it's AGI, right? That's number one. But number two, and this, now let's tie it back to when Sam Altman got kicked out. The wording that the board used is that they no longer had confidence in Sam Altman's ability to run the business. No one doubts his confidence as a commercial operator, but, and this is where Ilya Sitseva, which was the computer scientist, who, if you Google this guy, he's all about morality and all that. He is that part of OpenAI. This is, now you can start seeing, I think that when they kicked him out, or Elon, like they did a coup basically about it, it was nothing to do with Sam Altman's commercial ability. And again, he got reinstated. So clearly that's what Elon's saying. That's the driving force between OpenAI, not for good of humanity. If they've got this black box that's AGI, two things. One is, firstly, we can terminate this agreement with Microsoft. Tick. Secondly, what the fuck? They've got a black box here. This could ruin humanity. I'm being hyperbolic, right? But this could ruin humanity as we see it. And I want to freaking see it myself so that we can put it out there in the ether, have a conversation. No one man can have all that power there. And it's known in the community that late last year, they had a version of ChatGPT or AI called Q-Star. And like if you Google it, it's all over. This Q-Star is meant to be an iteration of AGI. So they've already put it out there. And the irony of this is, if you think of the fact that all these things are brand new, there is no court judge that knows the difference between AGI and AI. They don't.
Yeah.
They just don't. Which is, again, just to reinforce the element that legally, this is a very hard case to pin down, but it is meant to bring these things out to light so that people can start having the conversation. And this is where, when you zoom out, it's not like governments are having this conversation. So Elon is generally taking it on his own with his resources, because to do a court case like this is insane. To bring it out so that we can hash this conversation out in public. But it's It's fascinating, right? It's actually nuts because if all you read was Elon Musk sues OpenAI without contextually all that, you think he's just a businessman, like, you know, big dick conversation.
He's doing the thing that he does, right?
But knowing that we're just living our lives doing our thing, how does it feel that these
could
things
potentially be saving the world?
No, but like, how does it make you feel? Terrible, doesn't it?
Oh no, I think it's just more. It's fascinating.
Right?
It's genuinely fascinating. I think where, this is your real end game. You know, this is your real like.
Well, the stakes are end game, and it's literally written in this core document. Could be the end of the world. It could face humanity an existential crisis. And I guess when we say existential crisis, it's one thing to say human beings dying. It's the other saying that. And it's interesting. Remember, we were talking about like what we do as work and jobs and like thing, right? The beginning of this is a court paper, by the way, not a thesis. All right, is written. Basically, the first line says, in all of humanity, the current value of exchange is the information knowledge based exchange, which is we read a paper. Okay, so I look at YouTube. You and I, we do reading, and then we put it in a podcast. It's the same thing. We're just adding our value, our opinion, and upgrading, whatever you want to call it, the information exchange for you to consume it. And that is where human beings are at the current spectrum. Yeah. Sure, manufacturing is happening, but that's being put to robots and stuff like that. And what he's saying is, if we go down this road, an AGI can do it much more articulately than I am, much more quicker than we are, and straight off the bat. So the end of humanity could be like, what jobs are we to do if like everything's being done at a amazing sort of rate? Why would a CEO have 50% of their workforce? And we've talked about this with Sora and like the video, and that's what like he's talking about basically there.
And therein lies the example, I guess, where you still need that human intervention to put the front of being like there needs to be that line somewhere, right? Like how does it get
it's crazy
contained in a way? How does it help us, but then it doesn't become the thing that becomes us?
And I think that, and that's the thing. If you have big companies who their job is to return like value to their shareholders, how can they be arbitrarily, like how can they be the main decision makers of that? Because they're not asking the government. And which government is taking the stance on? No government. Like we talked about the social media Senate inquiry. Those guys had to get like subpoenaed to come in. So they clearly don't listen to him. Like, and I guess that's where we're at the moment. That's social media. This is AI. This is someone that could generate the Joe Biden deepfake.
Yeah.
That thing could happen.
Did anyone see the Jill version of it on Twitter? And it was like, they posted it. I don't know who posted it, but they specifically said it was a parody, but it was talking about the fact that like he's lost complete like mobility and like awareness or control of himself, and that like which goes against the narrative that's being pushed that he's the one that's making the calls, he's the one that's directing people, etc., and then it's just like it's like the fact that somebody had to say this is a parody, but also taken out of context. If you don't have your bloody thesis, it's saying, like, or whatever notation saying like this is fake.
It's going to spread like wildfire. Yeah.
Anyway, well, I'll definitely be keeping an eye on it, but
some serious stuff.
Some very serious stuff, to be honest.